The Beginning of the Distant Sounds, Chapter 1. In December, the last month of 1965, Graham, Lamey and myself went to the Blandford Christmas tree party, and we both took along our instruments, Graham with the guitar and me with the accordion. After they had finished, they would dance to a tape recording, but wasn't much good. Bill Cleveland was running it. We brought our instruments on stage and played Do What You Do Do Well while the children sang. Just when they started to enjoy themselves, Bill Cleveland played God Save the Queen and everyone went home. We dreamed up our idea about a band in February 1966 at school. We had Graham with the guitar, Dianne with the melodica, Janet on the piano, Bruce on the drums and myself with the accordion. At a later date we dropped Bruce and we put in Doug Adams with his drums. At this time we hadn't thought of a name until the second week in April when someone brought up a brainwave about going in the Easter procession in Murrurundi. We all decided to go in it because it might give us some publicity. On Wednesday afternoon, on the bus, we had 58 names in our band and we had to vote till we had one left. It was the Distant Sounds. That night we all had to do a poster and the best was to go on the big bass drum. Mum's was picked, and so on Thursday I stayed home from school and helped Mum paint it on the drum. I also painted some signs to go on the float. When we were all on the float, we were going to wear hillbilly clothes and cowboy hats. Chapter 2. The Float. On Wednesday the 8th of April, I went out to Graham's place to help decorate the float. We had signs all over the truck with our streamers here and there, and on the floor we had pine needles mixed with bits of streamers and confetti. We rigged up a tennis ball with a piece of tube in one end and hooked that onto some TV wire which led into an old-fashioned speaker. All this we pretended to be a microphone for Janet to sing in because we couldn't have a piano. We were all going to have two boys at the front holding a banner with the Distant Sounds are coming written on it, a girl behind with a sign, We Love You All, and a little girl with us dancing. Her name was Kay Parkins. We arrived in Murrurundi at 8:30 on Saturday, the 9th of April, and found out that the procession didn't start until 9:30 a.m. We went to a cafe and had a milkshake. At 9:30 we were all lined up, ready to go, and went down a few streets and around the oval where our name was announced over the loudspeaker. Although we didn't get a prize, we enjoyed it. Chapter 3. The Frolic. On Wednesday the 13th of April, we asked the teacher of the Blandford school if we could play at the Blandford Frolic. He said he'd tell us tomorrow. He said we could play when all the adults went into supper. On Friday night the 15th, we all went to the hall and played. It was fun. Halfway through they gave us 3 cheers for us, and at the end we played God Save the Queen. Everyone said we did a good job. We had to play good because there were a drama of people from Murrurundi who sat and listened to us for a long time. We are all hoping to be in a big concert on Murrurundi soon. Ken Davis is trying to get us in. Chapter 4. The Birthday Party. On the 28th of April 1966, Janet asked me to go to her and Judy's birthday party. It was on a Saturday night the 30th at Iona Woolshed. All the family was invited. Doug was going to be with his mother and father, and we had to take his drums because we were going to play while all the guests danced. Saturday night came and we all arrived there at 8 p.m. First we played a waltz to get the people started. Nearly everyone got up and danced. Halfway through the party, Mrs. Easy and Janet sang The Pub with No Beer, and while everybody clapped when they'd finished. Janet played Okey Pokey, and everybody danced. Graham sang while we played musical chairs. The girls had to sit on the boys' lap. It was fun. At 11 p.m, we had supper, and they cut the cake, and we sang Happy Birthday. Mrs. Easy and Jim Davis played the Snowball Waltz together on the accordion while we danced. At 12 p.m, Janet played God Save the Queen, and we arrived home at 12:15 a.m. On Monday, we have to play it at a school dance, which is in aid of our school excursion next term. Chapter 5, The Dance. On Monday the 2nd of May, Mr. Ireland came up to us and asked if we could play for a school dance. We couldn't have it Friday week because the school would be closed for the May holidays, so we had to have it on the Monday night, the 9th of May, 1966. It was in aid of our school excursion next term. On the Friday afternoon, we made some posters at the school and posted them up all over Murrurundi and Blandford. Monday night came and we arrived there at 7:45 p.m. We didn't have to pay to go in. We started at 8 o'clock and went till 12 p.m. We all enjoyed it, our teachers too. On Tuesday morning I found out that we'd made $8.59 or £4 5 and 11 pence, with all expenses out. That is £3 for the hall and £1 for the lucky spot, prizes and pops. Chapter 6, The Party. On the 23rd of May, Kay Parkins was supposed to have a birthday party, but it was too cold, so they cancelled it and had to have it on the 27th. The 27th came, and before we went to Murrurundi and talked to Johnny Beater, he said he could get us all the hockey dances, if we were good enough. He was going to tape record us and play it to other people. After that we went to Iona, and the party started. Dianne wasn't there this time. Graham had his pickup for his guitar, and it sounded quite good. Johnny Beater came and taped us. We sound awful on tape. We came home about 12 o'clock and went to bed. Johnny Beater said he could get us to play for in between 20 pence and 30 pence each. Chapter 7, Our Dance. 3rd of July, we decided to have another dance to raise money for our excursion. A week before we had made posters and put them in Murrurundi and Scone. On Wednesday, the 1st of July, we practiced at the hall all afternoon. We arrived at the hall at 7:45 p.m. and at about 10:30 p.m. I counted about 70 people dancing. A couple of boys got sent home. They lived at Scone. Mr. Ireland came there about 10 p.m. after a meeting. He drew a raffle and Dianne Davis drew the lucky door prize. When it was all over, I found out that we'd made £31 10 shillings, or $72. With expenses out, we had £28 10 left, which went towards our excursion in September. Our hockey dance is coming up soon. Chapter 8, The Primary Assembly. In May, Mr. Kennedy, our headmaster, invited us to play at a primary assembly in about the middle of June. We agreed, of course. The day arrived and we went into the hall and sat down. Janet couldn't use the piano because it wasn't in tune with the melodica and the accordion, so she sang with Graham while he played the guitar. All the children came in and sat down. When we started to play, we played the song and sang Waterloo, Sunshine, Michael rowed the boat ashore and Do What You Do Do Will. When we finished, they cheered and clapped as we walked out. Chapter 9, Another School Dance. During June, we decided to have another school dance and picked a date, which was the 22nd of July. We booked the hall and made posters, which went to Corindi, Scone and Murrurundi, and practiced every Saturday and some Sundays and Wednesdays during sport. A lady was coming from Scone to see if we were good enough to play for her sister's wedding, which is during the end of the year. My grandparents and my auntie and her 2 children, Bruce and Julie, were coming to this dance. We bought a pair of towels and raffled them. On the 21st of July, we went down the street and bought the lucky spot prizes and a box of chocolates for a lucky door ticket prize. 22nd of July came and we arrived there about 7:45 and began to play about 8:15 p.m. We started off with a waltz on the roster, if you look, as usual. Mr. Sheen was our MC, as Graham couldn't make it to our dance to play. He drew the raffle and drew out Craig of Ard's name. We played God Save the Queen exactly at 12 p.m. For the night we'd made about $66 or £33, and with expenses out, about $56 or £28. News. On the 29th of August 1966, I went to Tamworth to buy my new accordion, which cost £40. On the 5th of September, Doug went to Tamworth to buy a new set of drums. He traded his old ones in and got £9 for them. In July, Graham went to Tamworth to buy a new guitar. He bought an electric one. Chapter 10. The Tea Party. On the 18th of October 1966, Mrs. Evans rang Mrs. Parkins to see if the Distant Sounds were available to play for a tea party. It was for Marg Kelleher and Bill Watson, who were going to get married soon. The date for their party was the 22nd of October 1966. On Thursday the 20th, we decided to play and thought that it might help us practice for the frolic on the 28th of October. That's the Friday. The tea party was at Time Hall. Doug had other arrangements to go away before Mrs. Evans rang up, so we had to go without the drums for once. The 22nd, Saturday, soon came, and I got a lift out with Parkins. We arrived there at 8 p.m, but the whole show didn't get started till 9:30 p.m. We did, though. We played from 8:30 to 9:30. We all sat around a big table in the middle of the hall, and everyone ate and drank to their heart's content. After all the toastings were over and everyone has had their fill, we cleared the floor and then we started playing once more. Once we got everybody started, we started to play loud and then everyone started to sing. After we'd finished the dance, there were whistles and squeals and we had to go on. We must have played a barn dance for an hour and a half. We were also thanked for coming at the dinner table and everyone clapped. We ended up dead at 12 p.m. because no one should play on a Sunday. Chapter 11. The Frolic. In August, there was a P&C meeting at the school, and they voted us to play for the Frolic. We accepted, of course. The Frolic was on Friday the 26th of October, which is a long way away then. Janet was to play while the children marched around in their fancy dresses, and we were to join in after that when everyone started to dance. Friday night came quick and arrived there at 7:30. Dianne had a cold, so she wasn't able to play, but she still came with us. Janet finished her parts at 9:30, and that was when we had to start playing. Mr. Robertson was our MC and host, and we started the children off with the Okey Pokey Pokey, at which they had been learning at school for the past few weeks. All the children rushed to form a circle, and we started out with Mr. Robertson helping them sing on the microphone. After we'd finished, they squealed and whistled. Our next dance was a barn dance, and with this, many parents and bigger children rose from their seat and started to dance. Mr. Clark, 3rd and 4th class teacher, played Pop Goes the Weasels while we had a spell. We had supper about 10 p.m. with Mr. Robertson, and after that we started to play again. Our last dance, Graham and I had to drop out because his fingers were all grooves and blisters, and my thumb had the skin cut through by my accordion. Janet and Doug played God Save the Queen at 11:45, and we were giving 3 cheers and thanked by many people. Our dance is in a fortnight's time. Chapter 12. Our dance. In September, we decided that we would have another dance. We said we would love to have it on the 9th of November, but the hall wasn't available, so we had to move it on to the 11th. So the 11th of November it was. This was going to be our last dance for the year, but we were going to have an open dance after the banquet. We aren't going to play for it though. After getting all the posters out and arranged for the hall and our supper for the first time, the 11th of November soon arrived. All of us were playing this time. We all arrived at the hall by 8 p.m, but we didn't get started till 8:30. There weren't many people there at first, but at 9:30 they came rolling in. We all went out to supper at 10:30 p.m. and didn't get started until 11:15 p.m. After a few more dances, we played our medleys and finished up with God Save the Queen at 1:15 a.m, which is a lot longer than 12 p.m. at our other dances. Afterwards, we found out that we'd made $35.36, or £17, 13 and 7pence, with all expenses out for the hall and the supper equipment and the lucky spot prizes. Chapter 13. The Christmas Tree. In November we were asked to play for the Blandford Christmas Tree, which was to be held for the Blandford Public School, at Blandford Hall. It was to be held on the 9th of December 1966. The 9th soon came and we went to the Blandford Hall to play. Santa Claus came and went after giving presents to the children, and after the prize giving had ended, came supper. After supper, we all came into the hall and started to play. Graham was unable to play. We started at 9:30 with a polka and went to the Okey Pokey, etc. Janet went home at 10 p.m. to watch television and left us alone. Dianne took over the piano, with Doug on the drums and me on the accordion. After we'd finished, the people thanked us and said we were very good and it was the best music they'd heard for a long time. Chapter 14. Civilian Widow's Christmas Party. During November, Doug's grandmother, Mrs. Willis, wanted Doug and me to play at the Civilian Widow's Christmas Party on the 10th of December 1966. It was to be held at the CWA rooms in Scone. On the 10th, we arrived there at 8 p.m. and went in and started playing straight away. We played a few songs and then stopped to let the other guests finish their acts. After they'd finished, Doug and I started again and kept on playing till 9:30, and then we stopped and had supper. After supper, we were all thanked, and they said we were all very good at our music, reminded them of the good old days. There were about 50 people there watching and dancing as we were playing. Most of them were old women, and they enjoyed our playing most of all. Chapter 15. The concert. Our concert was held on the 13th of December, which was a Tuesday night. It was only 5 days before that we, the Distant Sounds, decided to play. We were going to be the Country Bumpkins in the Country Bumpkins show. Brian was to be our compere and he was going to introduce us, and then the curtains opened. We had only 3 days to organise our act. We all brought in wagon wheels, lanterns, horseshoes, wine jar filled with ginger beer, and of course hay to sit on, which was loaned to us by Mr. Parkins. Tuesday night came, and first of all we had the prize giving, and Mr. Kennedy gave a speech. We mentioned the Distant Sounds had made over $200 in the past year and said they had the biggest bank account. He then congratulated us all on our fine work. We were the second last act, and so we had to wait a long time. When the time came, we had to rush to get our equipment on stage, and we had to pin up our barn scene and put the hay and wheels, etc. on the stage. The curtains opened. We were all reading papers and drinking and pretended we hadn't realised them opened. We jumped up and started playing after Brian announced that we were doing. First we played and sang Saddle Boy. After that, Dianne, Doug and myself played Suvla Bay. Us three had a spell after that while Janet and Graham played a song, The Pub with No Beer and The Long Tall Texan. While they were doing that, I read a paper with my glasses. They were about a foot wide and Dianne knitted with hay bale ropes and 2 bolts. After Janet and Graham finished, we all played and sang Hand Me Down and the curtains closed. The audience cheered and whistled and wanted more. Chapter 16, the RSL Christmas Tree. Mrs. Evans asked if we could play at the RSL Christmas Tree and Social at Murrurundi on the 15th of December 1966. We said we could. The 15th came and we had to be there before 6 o'clock because Santa Claus arrives then. We were called into the hall and we played Jingle Bells while Santa Claus came. There must have been a drought where Santa lives, or else he went on a diet. We stopped for a while till all the presents were given out and then played Jingle Bells while he went out. The rest of the night we played our dances the same as we do. We had supper and drinks after the children had theirs. Nearing the end we were all giving $2 each for playing and ended off at 10 p.m. with God Save the Queen. Chapter 17, the Farewell Party. On Monday the 13th of February, a lady rang Mrs. Davis to hire the distance sounds for a farewell party for Mr. and Mrs. Keegan of Murrurundi. Mrs. Davis then rang the school to ask us. We said we would ring her back that night. We were all allowed to go and were hired from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. on the 16th of February 1967. Our price was $5 or £2.10 an hour, and that's 10 shillings each. The 16th came and we arrived there at 8, and after we set up, we started playing while the people listened and danced. At 9 p.m. the guests arrived, and we played He's a Jolly Good Fellow as they walked through the hall. We were then all invited to have supper with them. After having supper, we came back into the hall, and on the way a lady gave us our first cheque made out to the orchestra for $10. We went home at 10 p.m, and the next day we went down to the bank and we all received our $2 each. We played in the RSL hall. Chapter 18, the Dance for a Good Cause. On the 14th of February, some of the girls in Form 4 came up to us and asked if we could play for a dance, which was to be held on Friday, the 17th of February, in aid of the Tasmanian bushfire appeal. We agreed. That night, we made posters and put them up in Murrurundi, Blandford, Winchard and Scone. The 17th soon arrived, and the only practice we had was at the farewell party for Mr. and Mrs. Keegan the night before. We all arrived there at 8 p.m, and we got started about 8:30. Mr. Mitchell was kind enough to be our doorkeeper, as Mr. Davis and Dianne were unable to attend our dance. Graham packed up his guitar about 10 p.m, as he had worn grooves in his fingers from the playing, and I had to knock off about 11:30, as I'd worn blisters and grooves on my hands. Janet and Doug played to 12 p.m, and ended off with God Save the Queen. We'd made $34 or £17 for the night. Chapter 19, The End and the Beginning. During March and April, we had a fight. I don't know how it started, but someone wanted Graham out, and Graham wanted Janet out, and then someone wanted Dianne out, and then Doug said he was going to drop out. Anyway, this one went on all March and the first few weeks in April. In March, we had a dance, but we didn't play. We got the Joan Manning's music to play, and that was in the middle of our fight. The distant sounds were no more. We'd broken up. Janet said this and the Blandford Annual School Frolic was on the 23rd of April, so Janet rang up to see if she could play. She was trying to get back at us. Anyhow, I was going to go and see how she played, and I was all dressed and waiting for David to come home to take me, and when he comes in and says, we have to play Murrurundi at 8 p.m. at Terry Titmus's send-off. He was going to Vietnam. We rushed over and told Doug to pick him up, and at 7:30. Dianne was going to play the piano, and Janet was all by herself with the little children of Blandford. I would have loved to have seen her face when she found out that we were playing. Chapter 20, The Send-Off. We arrived there at 8 p.m. and just had time to run up to Beaters to get something to chew. As soon as we got back, we were all called in to play. This was about 8:15. We started off with the waltz as usual, and the guests got up to dance. At about 9 p.m, Terry arrived with his mother and father, and he danced with all the girls and the women. He was wearing his army uniform. At 10 p.m, we stopped playing, and the special guests came up on the stage and sat down. Mr. Arnott, Mr. Evans, Reverend Hazelwood, and Terry. Mr. Evans gave his speech, which was followed by Mr. Arnott's, which went on for about half an hour, and by the time it finished, everyone was asleep. Mr. Evans then stood up and asked the Reverend if he wanted to say something, but he was asleep, and Mr. Evans had to hit him, and he didn't give any speech though. Mr. Arnott then presented Terry with a writing set, and we were all invited into the supper. I went into the door of the supper room, and I couldn't go any further, so I came back out again and told them I had a lovely supper when they asked me if I'd had it. They came out and danced after supper, and at about 11:30 p.m, we all joined hands in a circle with Terry and his parents in the centre, and sang Old Lang Syne and Jolly Good Fellow. We ended off at 12 p.m. with God Save the Queen. Chapter 21, Anzac Day. At the farewell party for Terry Titmus, we were asked to play at the Anzac Day for returned soldiers in the RSL Hall, 25th of April. They gave us a list of all the songs they wanted us to play, and we only had 4 days to learn them. That's till Tuesday. We were all going to play except Janet. Doug and Brian were playing in the march. The 25th soon came, and Doug and Brian had to be there at 9:30 a.m. As soon as the march was over, we went straight to the hall, where we started playing. I only knew half the songs, but Dianne knew the rest. We were all invited to dinner. After dinner, Mr. Arnold wanted us to play You Are My Sunshine. He was going to give an exhibition on how to do the Charleston. After he'd finished, Mr. Hayden showed everyone how to do the Egyptian can-can, and then Mr. Evans done the twist. At about 3 p.m, they all passed the hat around for us, and we received $2.20 each. We were only hired to 3:30, and at 3:25 we packed up and left the hall. Mr. O'Keefe was also at the dinner, and I could see him singing to himself as we were playing. He was also asking a lot of questions about us because I saw him pointing each of us out. Chapter 22, The Euchre Party and Dance. At a P&C meeting at the school in the first week of May, they decided to have a euchre party and a dance on the 27th of May in the RSL Hall. They hired us to play. We accepted, and Janet wasn't going to play, Dianne was. We arrived at the hall at 8:15, 15 minutes late. Hardly anyone was going to come because of Mrs. Davis. They asked her why there was going to be euchre. She said, and I quote, the mothers had come to see how their children behave at dances. These words soon spread and no one was going to come. Some did though. We played right through to 12 as usual with a few breaks, and as we were packing up we were handed $4 each for the night. The next time we played something I'm going to ask Janet to play. Dianne is awful. Whenever she makes a mistake she goes back and corrects it. and she gets us all out of beat, and most of the time she's done this, and I got up and went outside. We have been asked to play at the Lions Club dinner on June the 10th, and I asked Janet if she'll play. She said yes. Chapter 23, the Lions changeover dinner. The 10th soon arrived, and Douglas wasn't going to play, neither was Janet. Everyone was going crook on Doug. He had to go shooting. The three of us were going to play, and we arrived at the RSL at 9 p.m. The dinner was over, and we were going to dance and drink the rest of the night. We started off with a quick step to liven things up a bit. Most of them danced. People come from Newcastle and Tamworth areas. Most of the women were wearing long dresses, and the men wore collar and tie. I didn't think this was going to be so toppy as it goes, and I wear a skivvy and a jumper. Nearing the end of the show, people came up to us and said how they enjoyed our playing. Mr. Battram was our leader. He told us what to play and what not to play. He even sneaked us a bottle of Porphyry Pearl, a few bottles and 2 cans of beer. We drank these in between intervals. Dianne didn't have any, so Graham and I drank them with the help of Kay and a few other girls. We ended off at 12 p.m. and then received $3 each. From now on, we charge $1 each an hour and $1 every half hour after 12 p.m. Graham says this is too much. He has a lot of money though. We have been asked to play at another euchre party and dance on Friday the 23rd of June 1967. Doug will be rabbiting. We will just have to drop him out altogether and get another drummer, Brian. Unfortunately, this was the last entry in my diary. I guess the distant sounds just played off into the distance. And where we are today, nobody knows. I guess one day we may meet again. I hope you all enjoyed this story, as it brings back a lot of memories for me and what a 15, 16-year-old person can do. Thank you for watching and listening. Jon Field.